go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you, Emily. Well, I'm very happy to have Sara Sankowich here with us tonight. She's the Director of Sustainability and Shared Services at Unitil, and I met her at a New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility event where she received the Climate Award from that organization on behalf of Unitil and her work at Unitil, which was very impressive. She's been in the utility field for 23 years, has led partnerships with New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility and the UNH Sustainability Institute. And she's hosted a summer fellow from UNH student through the program for the last 5 years. She's worked on Unitil's clean energy projects and was Unitil Sustainability Champion for their new building project in Exeter, which is the first WELL, capital WELL, certified gold building in New Hampshire. So Sara, thank you for joining us and discuss community and business partnership, building a sustainable grid in New Hampshire, what our future truly needs. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share screen here so you can see a couple of slides I have. All right. As Paul mentioned, my name is Sara Sankowich, and I'm the Director of Sustainability and Shared Services at Unitil. I'm going to talk a little bit about Unitil and why energy company really needs community and businesses as partners for a sustainable grid. So let's move along. So a little bit about Unitil. We are an electric and natural gas provider in the state of New Hampshire. We also provide electric and natural gas in Massachusetts and natural gas in Maine. So we're a pretty small investor-owned utility. We have about 100,000 electric customers and just shy of 100,000 natural gas customers. When you think about how electric companies or gas companies or us as Unitil affects sustainability, you would probably tend to think about the use of the electricity and the greenhouse gas emissions that come from using fossil fuel-based energy sources. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how Unitil as a utility company has control over the emissions and can affect some sustainability related to those. So the first thing is that you have to, as a business or a company, you would want to get a handle on your carbon footprint. And so like other, companies that are out there, Unitil has done that. We've looked at our carbon footprint. We're unique in the fact that our carbon footprint includes the use of the electricity and gas that we deliver to customers. And so we have a large scope 3, which is where those emissions are present. But really, we only have direct control over a small portion of our emissions, which is scope 1, and they represent about 20,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can still affect scope 3, but I wanted to set the stage for the magnitude of the emissions we're talking about and the fact that we don't have direct control over some of the other things in scope 1, like our fleet vehicles or the energy used at our buildings. For looking at how much emissions that are made up from our customers' use of electricity, so now we're looking at scope 3, you can see that by this chart, looking at the emissions, 75% of emissions are actually from the delivered gas that we provide to customers, and only 25% of that is delivered electricity. So, we would want to take a little bit of a closer look at how those emissions are affected and what we can do about it. So diving into the delivered electricity, you can see that electricity in New England is actually made up of a large percentage of natural gas. I'm not sure why the gas label isn't showing on my chart right now, but that big giant blue piece there is natural gas. Orange is nuclear. Then we have renewables, followed by hydro, coal, and oil. So that's what the energy makeup looks like in New England. So as we think about moving to a sustainable grid and sustainable energy, you know, you could say, well, theoretically, we could just convert all the natural gas use to electric. And if we generate our electric from a low carbon energy source like solar or wind, that would be great. We could call it a day and we'd be on our way to sustainability, right? Well, unfortunately, while that sounds great, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of natural gas and really why that's important. So it's often called a transition tool or a bridge fuel for sustainability because it really is an important part of the energy mix. And in New England, we can really see that because it's often used for heating, home heating. And we have some really cold winters in New England, unlike some other places. So it really is an important tool in New England. And the second point is that, you know, the greenhouse gas emissions from natural gas are less than some of the other fuels that are out there. So delivered fuels like kerosene, fuel oil, or propane have a higher carbon intensity. And if you move to natural gas, approximately 23% of emissions, reduction could be seen from doing that. And about 50% of the homes in New Hampshire still use delivered fuels. So there is a small percent of homes that could switch, or businesses that could switch to natural gas, and we could see a reduction, fairly easily. And so that's a bridge fuel moving us towards a cleaner step, but maybe not the ultimate end goal. The final factor is that when you look at the total energy consumption in the region, and we're not even factoring in transportation yet, so electrification from EVs and all those things. So if you just look at the load today from heating and the load today from natural gas, the natural gas still comprises the majority of the energy use. So it would be very difficult, maybe even unsafe, to try to switch all of that over. And so as an example, if we just look at Unitil's natural gas load compared to Unitil's electric load, if the company tried to completely eliminate natural gas and converted the energy that we used from natural gas into electric, like if that was possible to just do that, the load would be more than doubled during the non-heating season. So that's quite a bit. During the heating season, however, it would increase fivefold, with peak times possibly being as high as 10 times our current electric load demand. So really, our electric systems are not quite ready yet to meet this demand. So we're working really hard to be able to increase the load and modernize our system. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. But it kind of gives you an idea of the challenges that we're facing, and we have to figure out together how we're going to overcome those challenges. And natural gas is a piece of that puzzle. So going back to the slide I was just at, where we're talking about electricity, the goal is really to move all of this energy to low carbon sources in the future. And, surely that the utility can do that, right? So we are utility. We should be able to just have new generation and do all of that, correct? Again, it's complicated. Um, we we do affect sustainability, and we are allowed to own some generation, but New Hampshire is in a deregulated state. So what does that mean? In a regulated utility market, this is your vertically integrated sort of monopoly utility, where it covers the entire value chain, where power is generated, it's sent to the grid and reaches customers, and the utility can own all of that. A lot of regulated markets are in the Southeast, the Northwest, or much of the West, except for California. In a deregulated electricity market, market participants other than utility companies own the power plants and the transmission lines. So in those instances, the generators of power, who are separate from the utility company, sell electricity into a wholesale market. And then retail energy suppliers purchase this electricity and sell it to customers. And there's a whole group that manages um, the energy. It's called ISO, or the Independent System Operator. And so anyway, the utility company is still around, but they're really only delivering the power, right? We're the distributor. We don't actually own all of the generation. Um, so why would that even be a good thing? Well, the good thing is that you can actually choose your power supplier. So if you wanted to choose renewable, you could. And there's options, for you to decide if that's what you wanted. The other good thing is that it allows for community power aggregation. And so in New Hampshire, municipalities can buy wholesale power and resell it to their residents and businesses that are within the borders of their town. And so the goal there would be to provide electricity to customers at a lower cost, and probably integrate more renewable energy when we're sourcing our electricity, from local places. So there are positives to being in a deregulated electricity market, but it means that the ownership is sort of back on the community and the people to decide what they want. If they want more renewables, then go to the market and purchase them. Now, the utility still provides a standard power mix to customers. So if you don't choose to have another provider, you get the standard power mix. And in New England, there's different levels of renewable energy resources that have to be incorporated into that standard mix. The utility company is regulated as to how much we can put in there. If you look at this chart here in the yellow, unfortunately, that's New Hampshire. We don't have any requirements to add renewable energy to our standard power mix. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it if it is economical. So if there are providers, in New Hampshire with renewable energy, and that is more affordable, then we can purchase that power mix. There is some good news, though. In New Hampshire, utilities are allowed to own some limited generation, renewable generation. And the New Hampshire statute allows for utility investment up to 6% of our total distribution peak load. So the max amount of electricity that we're providing to customers at a peak, we can own up to 6%. For Unitil, that means we can develop as much as 18 megawatts of renewable generation. So we said, well, that would be great. We'd love to do that. It would get some more renewables onto our system. So we're actually in the works for developing up to our maximum limit in New Hampshire, starting with our first project, which is in Kingston, New Hampshire. And it's just shy of 5 megawatt solar installation. And it should be online soon. It's estimated to generate approximately 9.7 million kilowatt hours in its first year of service. And some of the benefits of that would be increasing the affordable low carbon energy on our system. Revision Energy is our partner on that, and they are, currently building the solar array for us. And Revision Energy is a great employee-owned, B certified solar company in New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, and we're really excited to have them as a partner building our first solar installation. This is the current status. I thought this picture was really cool. This is an ortho mosaic from last month. Ortho mosaic is a stitching of photos together, some overhead photos. So you can see that the site is prepped and ready to put those solar panels out there. So when it comes to future solutions, now we know what the utility can and can't do, and sort of what we're doing as a utility to bring renewable resources and sustainability to New Hampshire. But I want to talk a little bit more about the balancing act. So, while we are talking a lot about emissions and we're putting a lot of emphasis on emissions, there really are a couple of other important factors that we have to take into account. The first one is reliability. So customers require a stable and consistent energy source, especially, with a lot of uh, you know, people working from home and all of the businesses and things that happen, like having a consistent and stable power is critical. And so the utility must be able to provide energy in the quality and the quantity that users demand while avoiding disruptions and outages. And with increasing, effects from climate change, more storms and things like that, we have to be prepared to do that to meet our reliability needs. So that has to come into account. The second is affordability. When we're doing all these projects, we have to think about the customer and how much this is going to cost, because at the end of the day, a lot of those charges are passed through to customers. And while they're getting benefit from them, what does it affect them now as opposed to, the payback in the long run? We want to make sure that we're thinking about the current cost and then the future savings. Customers should, we want to think about their ability to pay their bill. The Department of Energy defines affordability as, customers being able to pay for their energy use while also paying for other necessary costs without having to choose between things or feel overburdened. And so, that's really keeping in mind the energy burden or the percent of income that people spend on their energy bills. And finally, emissions is the other piece of that we are focusing more about on this talk. But, to cover that, we really want to limit the drastic effect of climate change. Global temperature rise needs to be kept well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels to avoid some of those catastrophic effects. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions is a necessary step, and we have to really work together to figure out how to get to that point. The good news is that, we are really working on initiatives to help make strides toward this clean energy future. Um, we talked about the the gas burden and energy burden in general, and not being able to, move everything to electrification. And so part of that is modernizing the electric grid. So that's about upgrading our physical assets, um, integrating new technology and communication to be able to talk and make, decisions, increasing automation so that things happen automatically, and provide customers with tools and resources to manage their energy needs. Um, we often talk a lot about the physical assets when we think about being able to carry more, transmit more power, move more power around. But really, there's a lot of other pieces that come in the back end around technology and being able to forecast loads and things like that. So we're also investing in the system to be able to expand our ability to accept increasing rate of renewables. Um, and this is where customers' renewable energy generation really comes in. So we need to manage the complex process of forecasting, monitoring, balancing, increasing hosting capacity to accommodate the integration of renewable resources. So there's a lot that goes into that, and we are diligently working towards that. Part of it is putting together, a plan for the future, using some of the projections of what distributed energy loads might look like, and looking at new technology that's out there. Another thing that we're working on to work towards a clean energy future is our customer information and education platform. And so that's, hosted on the web, and it's an online energy information platform that provides products, services, information to customers to help them make informed energy choices. So this is a self-service platform where you can use different models to see, maybe what it would cost you to put in a heat pump in your home versus, using your natural gas or your oil furnace, and decide what's right for you and look and see how much, emissions reduction you might get from that. You can set up proactive alerts and notifications if you have different systems that are on there. and we would like to have some trusted partners so we can establish behind the meter partnerships for customer energy needs. Like if you wanted to put in a uh, home energy management system, or you have an EV charging system, or you want to have a renewable, vendor for solar on your home or something like that. So this platform would really be there to help customers to make all those decisions about reducing their energy use um, and moving forward with their sustainability goals. Um, we also have a whole suite of energy efficiency programs. We work with New Hampshire Saves. And so we're proud to have a whole energy efficiency team that works every day with businesses and customers to reduce their energy use and save money and also reduce their emissions. We offer rebates, incentives, and advisory services. So if you call our customer service and are looking for energy efficiency support, we have a whole team that can help you with that. Um, Other initiatives that we're working on is some more tools to help customers. So in addition to our website where you can find a lot of self-serve information, you'll find information about some other tools that you can use. Um, One of them is a suite of customized and personalized rate options that allow you to optimize your energy use. One of those things that we offer today is a time of use rate. And so you have a different rate of electricity based on when you use your electricity. And so if peak electricity use is occurring, you're going to pay more. But if you can, charge, if you can use most of your energy, run your dishwasher, all kinds of things, set your heating to pre-cool or preheat your home outside of those peak demands, then you pay a lower rate. Um, and the same thing with an electrical vehicle rate. It's to incentivize having an electric vehicle and paying a lower rate, and especially if you were able to charge off peak times. One of the things we're looking for in the future is a possible heat pump rate. So again, if you're heating your home with electricity through a heat pump, having a special rate for that. So we're constantly looking at how we can have different rates available um, to make it affordable for customers to use energy for some of these great sustainability options. And our goal is to provide rates and services and intelligence to customers to reduce their overall energy costs by 10% by 2033. So, that's if we could reduce everyone's, energy by that much, obviously the whole scope one reduces, and it would be a great step towards greenhouse gas emission reduction. We also really want to be a trusted partner, and we would like to work with businesses and municipalities to help develop renewable resources or other sustainable initiatives. So, from anything from rooftop solar to electrification of heating, electric vehicles and fleet, um, or microgrids, energy storage, or other tech solutions for residential and commercial customers, we really want to be a partner. We have worked with some businesses already to make them more sustainable, um, and we've had some great partnerships where we have looked at some of these technologies and helped customers to implement them. We really want to also understand and remove barriers towards those goals. So what is the holdup from businesses to be able to install the solar or put an EV charging um, charger at their business and things like that? Is there something from a utility standpoint that's holding up or challenging for customers, and how can we learn about that and fix that? And lastly, as a trusted partner, we want to engage with legislators, state agencies, and stakeholder groups on legislation that may affect, our company, our communities, and our customers, uh, especially on climate change impacts and the future of the electric grid. Looking at emerging technologies and other sustainability related initiatives. We really want to be a trusted resource on policy related matters so that legislators can make informed decisions, knowing the effects that these policies may have on their constituents, so that they're not working in a vacuum, and they can really understand, that there may be some costs or reliability effects, and, that they're okay with balancing out those things and know what it means so they're not taken by surprise. We're also trying to lead by example. We have our own sustainability initiatives internally. Like I mentioned before, we have done a greenhouse gas reduction um, program. We have a carbon reduction target. We're looking to reduce our direct greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. And we've done that by incorporating electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric using CNG and hopefully renewable natural gas in the future, and installing some idle mitigation systems. So we're just working on our roadmap on how to get there and looking at having a sustainable fleet in the future. Um, we're also looking at building energy use reduction. And so some of the common areas, if you're looking at reducing your building's energy, would be looking at moving to LED lighting. That's usually a very cost-effective way to reduce your energy use. Building envelope improvements, heating and cooling upgrades. We installed a building management system where we can have setbacks on our heating and cooling and lighting and other things like that when there's no one in the building or less people in the building. And we also have a goal for water efficiency as well. And with that, we built a new building actually during COVID, so that was interesting in our Exeter, New Hampshire. Um, it's our Seacoast Operations Center, and we had a lot of those sustainability goals for energy reduction and green building. And so that building is a LEED certified building, we're happy to say. Um, it was a really good process in looking at balancing costs for return. We were just a LEED certified. We didn't go for anything above that. We really wanted to make sure that everything we were doing was very cost effective and had a really good return. We're also a WELL certified building, um, and that we are the very first gold certified building in New Hampshire. And that's really exciting because well building not only does it take into account environmental factors, but it also looks at employee health and wellness. So there's a lot about employee health and wellness and comfort, thermal comfort, water, air quality testing, access to movement, nutrition, a whole bunch of different categories, well categories that we focus on. And we're really pursuing well at scale for some of our other buildings. That means we're looking to be well certified in those areas. And it's a really great um, employee focused program. You do a charrette for at each of your buildings to find out what your employees, goals are, what they would really like to have out of their buildings. For our Seacoast building, there's a lot of people wanted to have a healthy work environment and some focus on lighting and things like that. So it's really interesting to hear what your employees are looking for and make sure we're meeting their needs. We also have a diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging council, and we have a lot of learning and education events that go on throughout the year for that, built by that group. And we have some employee resource groups. We have a network of women and a young professionals group. So we really, we bring in sustainability while a lot of our focus is on the environment. We also bring the social aspects in as well. Turning a little bit towards community and business partnerships, we really feel that together is the best way forward. You know, we want to work with our communities and businesses in New Hampshire to find out what they need and how we can help them meet their goals. Um, and our outreach component, you know, we really work with a whole host of different companies across New Hampshire. I'm myself and another staff member are a member of New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility Focus Group. And so that's some leaders of New Hampshire businesses getting together, and we discuss important sustainability topics and how we're tackling them and how we might come together cross functionally as different businesses to tackle some of these really important topics in New Hampshire. We'll be hosting a New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility focus group at our building at the Exeter building in another month. But we've hosted other events as well since it's been built. We hosted Plan New Hampshire for a workshop on investing in statewide infrastructure for EVs. We want to get people talking about infrastructure. As a utility, we're prohibited from owning EV infrastructure while we can have make ready programs so that businesses can install the chargers. We can't own them. So we really want to talk about how we can help get customers and businesses to have some EVs. We also ran an EV ride and drive event with Drive Electric New Hampshire at our building where customers could test drive electric vehicles and learn all about, you know, what it means to own an electric vehicle and, you know, how to have a charger installed in your home and things like that. Um, in New Hampshire Energy Week was hosted by Clean Energy New Hampshire. We did a presentation at our building and gave a tour of our LEED and WELL certified building as well. So in addition to working with businesses and nonprofits, we've collaborated with the University of New Hampshire, specifically their Sustainability Institute and also their change makers as well. We've hosted a sustainability fellow as a student that works for us in the summer, working on sustainability projects. This is our 5th year of doing that, and this year we actually hosted multiple fellows, one of which was working on a battery energy storage program, which was really exciting. I was putting together a business case for how we could offer rebates and incentives um, to offer battery storage and an energy management system for customers. So if you had solar installed, you could also have a battery installed with it, and it would help customers to be more resilient in, you know, outages or storm events, things like that, instead of having to have a battery, and also allow you to maybe take advantage of time of use rates and things by being able to go on the battery at peak times. So we're really trying to think about ways that we can offer, you know, options to our customers to improve their ability to, you know, advance their sustainability goals. Um, as a company, Unitil also went through the Bee Impact Clinic, and I recommend that to any, you know, business owners out there. It really gives you a great way to look at your company and the impact you have on your communities and your workers and how to make improvements in that area. We've also supported the Carbon Clinic program. So if you're looking at figuring out your carbon footprint, the Carbon Clinic is a great program at UNH that can help you to figure out how to start um, doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory and figuring out what your impact on the environment is. And we, for the past couple of years, we've also supported the Changemakers Social Venture Innovation Challenge, where students have really great ideas for businesses or inventions and things that would have a positive impact on society. So it's really great to be able to engage with students and see what really amazing people there are out there working for positive and good for the future. So, you know, we really want to be a part of the community and support our businesses. Together is really the best way we can move towards a sustainable future. We want to be the utility that works with customers and communities and businesses to make sustainability happen and move toward that goal. I believe it's achievable. However, it's going to take all of us to get there. So um, I'm looking forward to working with all communities to get there. So with that, I'll take some questions. I think there might have been a couple in the chat here.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Um, so I appreciate, the balancing act Venn diagram you put up. Can we go back, Emily,
Sure.
I'm sorry, to the pictures of, encourage people to bring their faces back, but we can go back to the spread. We don't need
This
just,
one here.
okay, that's fine. I was also hoping that we would just get back to our grid and away, you can close the
Oh,
screen.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm encouraging people if you're ready to ask a question to bring your face back on as well. But anyway, so I appreciate the Venn diagram idea, of balancing act. The important third part of that was reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And you pointed out also that Unitil really is just a distributor in many ways. What didn't come up was the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission, the PUC. And I'm
Mm.
wondering to what extent you find um, that you have a roadblock with the PUC trying to accomplish some of the things you otherwise would try to accomplish, like EV charging stations. I think that Unitil, or at least one of the utilities, was forbidden to develop charging stations by the PUC, for example. There are just so many ways that really modern utilities need to get progressive. Some of the concepts I've been terminologies of some of the concepts I've been hearing is things like demand side management,
Mm.
transactional energy, improved connectivity, grid resilience and modernization, utility performance incentives, and smart meters and smart appliances, to name just a few. So I would hope that a progressive utility would be really, really drilling down on these things. My question is, how much are you drilling down on these things, and how much is the PUC preventing you from doing it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, the New Hampshire Public Utility Commission and the Department of Energy, they're not as progressive as some of our surrounding states. So, Massachusetts is really progressive on that end, and there is a cost that comes with that. But you know, New Hampshire tends to look and see what Massachusetts is doing and then decide whether or not it's reasonable and prudent to do some of those same things for our customers. So we've been really trying to share some of the efforts that we work in Massachusetts and Maine as well. So we get to be able to share some of those kinds of programs and really show the benefit of those. So like in New Hampshire, we proposed to do chargers in addition to the Make Ready program. We would actually own some of the chargers, and the commission said that's really not the utility's place to be able to do that, and they really want the free market to come in and have customers and other people own those. They think that's not really the utility's place to do that, but we can show that in Massachusetts. They have the incentives and the rebates for private customers to come in, and we still offer rebates to customers to install chargers, and we have a lot more adoption of people taking advantage of that and installing those chargers, and the infrastructure is better. So we really try to showcase some of that when we talk to the Public Utility Commission and say, I know that you don't believe that it's really the utility's place, but in the absence of those people coming in and building some of this infrastructure and it being slow to adopt, maybe we should investigate some of these possible incentives, and we can showcase what's been done in Massachusetts and what really worked, so that it takes some of the uncertainty out around that. Um, New Hampshire is thinking about transactive energy. You mentioned that. So what that means is that if the customer does reduce their power usage, that the rates might be different, or we might compensate you monetarily. And so when we get to a future state where there's a lot of renewables, and maybe it's sunny and a little bit windy, and then all of a sudden it's cloudy, and still you have this peak and fall of available renewable energy on the system, and that coupled with heating load, or um, transportation load, and just the peaks that come in our daily use, and even the peaks of seasonal use of electricity, you have to kind of match those things together. So if we can flatten that curve a little bit and reduce the demand, then that helps a lot in being able to serve customers the energy that they need. So if we say, oh, we'll reduce your rate, or we'll pay you some money to not be using the electricity, then all of a sudden it makes financial sense to have some solar and a battery. And so that's really what we're looking at. That is the way of the future, is to be able to get compensation from reducing your demand, so that we sort of are matching the demand to what's available for resources out there. And so our company, being small, I think we're well poised to look into transactive energy and set ourselves up for it. So on our end, we are doing those things to try to make ourselves ready. We were one of the first adopters of um, the smart meter that was out there. So our we have smart meter version 1, and so we're adopting new smart meters now. We're transitioning everything over to a new smart meter, or AMI as it's called. Um, so we'll be ready for those kinds of things. We'll get better data on when people are using um, their energy, and can potentially go towards transactive energy. There's more things about financial systems and connecting all of the customer information and all of that, but we're working on that from an IT standpoint as well.
Great, thank you. One of the questions from the chat had to do with connectivity, and as you know, connectivity in New Hampshire has been a big issue with lots of people with renewable projects that are waiting in
Mm.
line, not able to get connected. I know it's a challenge also for Unitil. I believe that Fitchburg, Massachusetts, for example, has a little moratorium on net metering new projects because of the grid not being available to handle that right now, if I have that right. But specifically, I was able to get a recent net metering permit from Unitil here in Exeter. But as you know, we have this antiquated system where the last one in, when who puts the demand on the current grid over the top, needing new transformers and whatever, has to pay for all that to get going. Anyway, the question from the chat was, how long a wait is it now for a new solar project with a 1 kilowatt, I'm sorry, 5 megawatt solar project? How long a wait for connectivity with Unitil now?
Yeah, so it really depends on where you are, right? So depending on, um, you know, how close you are to, our current substation, and some of those, bigger lines, and how much load is on the system. It really depends where you are. I am happy to report that we at Unitil have the um, the least amount of open applications for connecting to the grid. We pride ourselves in really trying to respond to all the customers, and let them know about how feasible it is to connect to the grid. That doesn't mean that it always makes financial sense. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, Paul, um, if you're the last one in and you put it over the limit, and now we have to build a new substation or something, it's like, do some upgrades and things, and who pays for that? And that's a bigger question. But we are trying to be prepared for accepting a lot of renewable into the system, because we think that is the future. Um, but yeah, sadly, it depends on where you are. But we can certainly be happy to work with you if you've put in an application.
The other connectivity related question was to do with net metering, and the question is about community power members. The assumption was the community power members are not allowed to net meter, and when will that change?
Yes, that's true. I know there's been a lot of discussion around that. Unfortunately, I'm not as up to date on that particular issue, but I know that as a company we've been talking about that a lot because there's a lot of communities that have now gone to community power. So that's definitely an issue that we have to tackle. So if you'd like to reach out to me after, I can find out more information on that and find out and let you know what the status is and provide you some more information.
How about customers who use other electricity sources other than Unitil, but not community power, go to the market? Can they net meter?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer either. So yeah, around metering, I need to brush up
Well,
on
maybe
my
I'll get
knowledge
back to
there.
you by email and ask those questions another time.
Yeah,
Ryan,
absolutely.
Reinmar had some questions about natural gas and its reliability, and questioning a little bit its use as a bridge. And I guess my question on that is, if it's a bridge, do you have a timeline for phase out? And does Unitil see itself as being getting out of the natural gas business in the next 20 years?
Yeah, so there definitely has been a lot of talk about natural gas and reliability, especially supply constraints with natural gas. So when it's really, really cold out, the priority for natural gas supply is for heating, but it's also used for electricity. So, there's been constraints over that, and natural gas can get very expensive when supply is constrained. Um, we have a lot of strategies in place to make sure that we are procuring enough natural gas, even for some of those peak times to help keep our rates down. But yeah, that's something to be thinking about. There's a lot of talk about the agreements that we have for natural gas and where we get the supply from. So that's always um, an area to think about and concern. When you think about the transition and the bridge fuel and how long that's going to be around, I can't give you a particular number, but I do know that until there are new technologies or things out there, it doesn't seem to be going away right away. So, we see it being there for more of a long term. Um, that doesn't mean that we can't take strides towards you know, adding a renewable component to it. In New Hampshire, there was some legislation that allows renewable natural gas generation to be added to the portfolio. So if there was, renewable natural gas that was generated from, say, like a farm where you have some um, waste products from animals and things, those waste products are going to decompose and the methane will go into the air. But if you can recapture the methane out from that digestion process, put it through a digester and create natural gas from it, it's considered a renewable natural gas. So things like landfill gas, um, and food waste, even wood products like forestry industry, uh, the waste from those products can be made into renewable natural gas. The good thing about renewable natural gas, because you might say, well, why don't you just turn that into power, is that it can be stored and put into the pipeline. So, it adds to the stability of the system when we're trying to figure out how do we reduce those peaks. So, um, it'll be interesting to see how all of that changes over the next few years when technology changes and things. But um, just the amount of energy burden we have, and all of the load from transportation and everything, and the heating, I don't see that natural gas will go away. But there may be some applications for it that uh, tend to diminish. Maybe residential diminishes where some other areas don't, and we'll have to think about the assets that serve those customers and whether or not it's worth maintaining those or maybe retiring certain pieces of it. Um, and also making sure we're looking at energy efficiency when we talk about natural gas. So there are heat pumps that run on natural gas, and if you're already a natural gas customer and you're all that infrastructure is there, if it's a more affordable choice, you could use a natural gas heat pump and still reduce your energy use and get a little reduction. So really, it's kind of a balance between the goals, affordability, what's available there, and what the technology looks like in the future.
Right. And the last component of the natural gas questions were that just challenging a little bit your statistics about if delivered fuels converted to natural gas, a 23% drop in greenhouse gas emissions, whether that's really factoring in the methane leaks involved in harvesting the natural gas and shipping the natural gas, and just that asterisk has to be there too about the
Yeah,
gas. So that if
good
those
point.
statistics can be factored in, we'd appreciate it. Reinmar, anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, good point.
Um, no, I think that's good. Thanks very much for the information.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
quite interested to hear about the heat pumps running on natural gas. I hadn't heard of that before. Who's
Yeah.
making those?
That's a good question. I don't have the manufacturer on the top of my tongue here, but in Massachusetts, we're working on an electrification pilot where we have a old cast iron main that was up for replacement, and that feeds a neighborhood, and so we're trying to figure out, can we retire that neighborhood and move them towards electrification, and so part of that was like researching all the possibilities that are out there. And Massachusetts has a future of natural gas docket that was open, and part of that was looking at this hybrid heating type model where um, you know there are some electric, some gas components, and there was a gas heat pump that was talked about in the docket. Um,
Interesting. I'll have to look that up.
yeah, so,
Mm.
there's lots of technology out there, and it's, the availability to purchase this type of technology and the cost and things, all of that goes into it. But we are hoping to find, some partners out there where we can connect customers and be able to supply, some of those types of technologies and things to move customers in the right direction.
At least one more important question from the chat. Many of us are looking forward to offshore wind making it to the
Mhm.
Gulf of Maine. And it looks like between your main system and your coastal New Hampshire system, that units will be sitting right in the catbird seat for where that energy is coming
Yeah.
onshore. Is Unitil making some definitive plans to get ready for that?
Yeah, yeah, we will, we are part of all those discussions about purchasing, the power that comes out of those wind projects. So, if that happens, we would be ready to purchase the renewable that comes out of there. So that would be great. I'm hoping, now with some of the supply chain issues down and those projects can go forward.
Okay, anybody else want to raise their hand and get another question in before we have to part? Myanmar.
Thanks. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I would like to ask about the reliability issue because I know that that's always, there's always a lot of that comes up a lot, let's say, as a goal, right? Um, but a lot of people, and I think statistically this is also true, is that reliability has not been improving. It may actually have been going down. And I'm wondering from the perspective of Unitil, what the reasons for that might be. I mean, maybe it's a complex issue with multiple reasons, but
Yeah.
what does it look like from your point of view?
So, Unitil's reliability has been improving, but it's been a real challenge. And not all the utilities in the state have had that same luck, and a lot of it is luck. It has to deal with storms and other things that are thrown the utilities' way. So, we've been doing a lot of planning for the increasing amount of storms and damage that comes from these storms related to climate change, and you know the more that customers can be on self-generation and have, a backup, the better, because we do anticipate that there will be more interruptions because of increasing numbers and severity of storms coming our way. Um, so, that's where the battery project comes in and things like that. But in general, Unitil's reliability has been improving. We've done a number of different, hardening type programs for our grid, um, so that we can be more resilient. And it's been working, but it is expensive, and as storms are forecasted to increase, we really have to think about how we make sure that customers can be safe and resilient in these types of weather events. So um, hopefully we'll be able to pitch some of these battery storage ideas and get the PUC to agree with us. I think bringing resiliency in and safety of customers, and talking about that certainly will help in that arena.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you probably agree with this, but it does seem like to some extent, a continued emphasis on reliability can actually block forward progress in certain kinds of change that would be necessary, and especially when you're talking about storms that would become either more powerful or more frequent. Um, so I'm wondering whether that, I mean, it's almost a philosophical question, I guess, but but should reliability continue to be a primary goal if it's actually stopping movement toward some kinds of change that are important on their own?
Yeah, if you're looking at reliability, like instead of a sense of like storms, are you talking more about like just meeting peak demand and things like that and having to have rolling blackouts? Because I think from a storm perspective, I don't think having renewables on your system is bad. Having a microgrid could insulate you for a few hours, from a storm. So there's a lot of really positive things that, change that can help in a resiliency standpoint. But if you're talking about reliability on the fact that, we may have these seasonal peaks or daily, peaks and valleys where we can't meet them, then yes, I think, there may be some issues, because right now the goal is to match the demand. It's not to require people to match the generation, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess, I mean, reliability has been one of the arguments for maintaining a pretty high percentage of gas, even, coal plants remaining not in New Hampshire necessarily, but in other states.
Yeah.
Reliability is always part of that argument, and it's a prominent part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, if you look at Texas as an example of, what they went through with, ice storm and other aspects, and being unable to recover from that and having a real issue with resiliency. I think in the Northeast, we're a little bit better prepared for that. And, renewables aren't, quite the same issue, but it still does bring to mind, if you don't have the backup from gas and heating moves to electric, what happens if your grid is down? So we have to be prepared for that, and that means, people being able to have plans. And if you have a mission critical system, having a microgrid or some other source of stored power where you can, you know, be prepared for an outage and things like that. So we definitely have to think about emergencies and resiliency from that way. I mean, a great example is we're moving towards an electrified fleet, and we have to restore customers when the power's out. So how do we do that if there's no way to charge your vehicles, right? So we're talking about a mission critical fleet where we have to have, battery and other backup to charge our fleet in an emergency, so we can get ourselves up and running and then get everyone else up and running. So um, how can we use microgrids and other, smart technology out there to improve resiliency and make reliability issues less of a burden for a change?
If I could take the last 60 seconds of this evening's webinar just to ask one more important question. As a Unitil customer, I didn't realize that Unitil only supplied the seacoast area and a little bit, was it the Concord area? Anyway, a
Yep.
small part of New Hampshire. And obviously Eversource is the gorilla in the state in terms of customers. And then there's a New Hampshire co-op. And is the fourth one Liberty, or what's the fourth one?
Yep.
Anyway,
Liberty. Yep.
I'm wondering whether the four of you have gotten together to work to strategize, not in a monopolistic way or an anti-trust way or whatever, but just to strategize on how to get more progressive policies here going in the state for grid modernization.
Yeah, a lot of our, government affairs folks, we all know each other from the other utilities, and we've talked about some of the challenges we face, and there are some really great working groups. EEI, or Edison Electric Institute, is a professional group made up of other utilities from New England, but also across the United States, and they have lots of great discussions, whether it's how to transition your fleet to EVs, or how to support customers in their mission. There's a lot of great collaborative groups where we can get together and talk about these issues. So we haven't had a specific powwow about the challenges in New Hampshire, so that might be a good idea to do that. But there are a lot of different ways that we do interact with them, and make sure that we're all talking about the important issues and thinking about how to tackle them together.
I would hope you could come to agreement to have a united front on a lot of these issues, and maybe even make sure some specific points are added in the new Department of Environmental Services, their climate action plan that they're formulating now over the next several months. So I hope that utilities can have
Absolutely.
a common voice and say, we got to get this job done.
Yeah, there's a lot of people throughout my company that are working on different projects where we have all the utilities together, and we're all looking for ways to move forward. So I'm not in all of those groups, but I do know that they're out there, and we'll include the department in a lot of those conversations, and try to figure out the best way forward.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the attendees. And this is a recorded webinar, and will be available on our website. And we hope that we'll get a lot more viewers over the next several weeks. Thanks very much, Sarah.
Excellent. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
very much, Sarah, Paul, and Emily.
Thank you so much,
Good
everyone.
night,
Have a
everyone.
great night.